Hey everybody, and welcome to Raising Vibrations Astrology. And today we're going to be discussing the full moon in Capricorn, and this is for the 19th and 20th of July 2016. I hope you all well, and this full moon experience hasn't really brought you some experiences that might have been a little bit turbulent. For me personally, the moon conjunct Pluto, which of course happened yesterday, the 18th, and is now we're dealing with the ramifications of that, brought up some stuff that needed to still be anchored in and grounded, which was great in that sense. However, the emotional reality in itself might not necessarily have reflected that to me. But yeah, I hope that you're okay in this current process right now where we are. And before I actually go into describing to you what I feel is a big part of this full moon experience and how to anchor this energy into it, I'd like to say thank you so much for supporting Raising Vibrations. The channel is growing and I'm putting a lot more energy into this. A lot of my excitement is here at the moment regarding Raising Vibrations, the YouTube channel. And yeah, I just want to say thank you very much for viewing and taking your time to actually participate in this experience and talk to me as well. I might not necessarily always get the time to be able to respond straight away, but I do read a lot of the comments and I do, to the most degree, respond to them in that sense. So thank you very much for making me feel like I'm part of a community and the other way around, and being able to share my inner space with you and in some way, shape or form provide nurturance and care and support during our very interesting times that we're going through. Okay, so enough of the babbling regarding that. Full moon in Capricorn, right? So where are we? This is an interesting place, to be honest. For me personally, I always say that, so it's not like something new, but it is, to be honest. The first thing that I really want to share is the context of this full moon in Capricorn. Okay. In terms of our evolutionary cycle, the process of shifting our reality is not going to end for a time that we think it's going to end. So that's the first thing. I think that we need to really get in touch with the fact that what we're going through right now is not a process where it's going to instantly transform itself and then we're going to have the golden age. That's bullshit. Just straight out there. What there is a process of deepening our awakening experience and coming to the realizations of what it is that we are. And unfortunately, there's a lot of distractions and a nonsense out there that keeps us away from the search about what this inner space is all about. And in my opinion, that's where it's all happening at this point in time, is the realization of the vastness of who we are without limitations, and the interchange between that space and the existential world, and how that is governed by laws outside of our control, reinforcing the feeling of limitation. So we've got this beautiful interplay between limitlessness, limited, limitlessness, limited, right? And our discovery of what that inner space is all about and what it means for us and how do we manifest it, and what is our design, I think, in that big way. What have we come here to openly share? And that's why I said earlier in the beginning of this video, just to thank you very much for allowing me to be able to hold the space within myself and then be able to share it with you and have a collective actually see that. So there's this whole natural cycle that we are transmuting ourselves through, and this is a big deal for us, and it's amplified through Neptune in Pisces, which of course has got a lot to do with the relationship of distraction and clarity. And these two are manifesting themselves simultaneously at this stage. We can go through deep experiences of mass confusion and hysteria and lostness, and then all of a sudden have deep moments of clarity where we feel and understand ourselves in a way that we have never actually experienced before, because a lot of us have been trapped in the mind and of course been conditioning a great deal. And conditioning is a big part of this process. Capricorn as an archetype within the structural framework of our existence reflects the natural laws of our conditioning. And this is something that I think that if you really, really want to get serious with what I'm sharing with you right now, and I can feel the energies dropping in me right at this point in time in terms of the magnitude of what this message is about, so hold on to your hats. is that if we had to look at the natural history of our existence, okay, there is such a large dimension of reality to explore within that experience that it can actually consume a lot of time. And most of the experience in itself, whether you have a direct intention to understand it, is actually manifesting as a distraction. Again, the clarity needed to understand why you're doing it is essential in the process because, like I said, the vastness of our history and the collective nature of our history gives us so much depth to who we are, but yet at the same time can only manifest that depth if you're actually in that space searching for it. So the point of here is that the south node of Pluto, the south node of Saturn, and the south node of Jupiter all exist within the 9 to 17 to 20, 21 degrees of Capricorn. Okay. And so what the symbolism represents is the natural ways that we as human beings and this organism, this bioenergetic organism, has been evolving itself for the last, say, for instance, 7,000 years. Okay. And if we had to understand Capricorn in its depth, we would recognize that we're dealing with a very, very strong relationship to patriarchy, especially around the relationship of emotional suppression and the rejection of the senses, especially around distortion. In other words, our relationship to the senses being incredibly influenced by ignorance and darkness, and therefore the manifestations from that darkness and ignorance becoming what we see in the world today. Now, the totality of this full moon in Capricorn in itself reflects a great cosmic cycle in which our process of purifying those distortions is right in front of us. And most of us, if we are not strong enough, i.e. that we're not developing an ego structure that is in support of what this process will do, will manifest as massive disassociation, delirious ideals about what we think is going on here versus the actual reality. And again, this is straight out what is going on in terms of our relationship to our world and to what we see. Now, for most of us, we understand this process. We see the distortion. We see the alchemical process of too much metal within our energetic field. Okay, and this can be easily transmuted as vaccine programs as such, the heavy metals and aluminiums that are found in processed foods, and our relationship to why we think that that is the best way to actually go about sustaining and nurturing our abilities to exist on this planet, and the lack of self-love that is actually imbued in that process. And so therefore reuniting us with the absence of the divine feminine that is essentially not being anchored consistently within our collective consciousness. So these are really, really, really big things that most of us within our daily existence don't have the time to actually organize our consciousness in a way where we can facilitate the regrouping and reconstruction of this process, of this divine feminine integration. However, at the same time, or the paradox of it is that we are actually. The fact that this video in itself is manifesting through this communication, the fact that your ability to discern between what foods are essential for your body and what isn't, is a proof that we are bringing that back in a very slow way. And yet, again, like I said, the paradox of this is that both are existing simultaneously. The awareness of what it is that we have to realign ourselves with, and the awareness of what we have created through the misalignment. Now, the big thing to understand about this process is this is organically manifested for us. This is a path that we have explored and experienced, and we're dealing with those natural truths that are present with us. Our relationship to accepting those truths in themselves are very deeply rooted in disassociative behaviors and massive amounts of misinformation and the inability to know what is actually going on, especially around our ignorance. Okay. And when I say our ignorance, I don't mean it in the sense that we need to now go ahead and judge ourselves for being useless at what we're doing. In fact, it's the complete opposite. It's the realization of deep forgiveness and acceptance for our traumas that we have experienced, and the realization of what then needs to balance that process. that is where it's at. And if our pursuits are ingrained, rooted, and stabilized in that process of returning more compassion to ourselves, returning more heart-centered awareness and movement through that process, then our natural manifestation will organically provide us with what it is that we ultimately seek. Now, the question becomes, why do we seek it so desperately? Why do we capture the need to alleviate ourselves for so much suffering, and then through that process forget about the actual truths that are lying in the moment regarding what we have created and how we are experiencing that creation, and then our desperate need to remove ourselves from the suffering? Okay, so in other words, we at this point in time, with Mars in Scorpio, okay, Uranus in Aries, and the Sun situated at 27 degrees Cancer, that connection, right? So what we have here is Mars quincunx Aries, Uranus in Aries, Mars in Scorpio quincunx Uranus in Aries. That quincunx is the gate of division. It is the gate in which we realize within ourselves that in order for us to proceed in a direction that we know is essential for evolution, it stabilizes our, or should I say, it creates instability within our sense of what is safe, i.e. our relation to security and the known. So we are challenged with this process. Now, in each of us, we are experiencing that quincunx in a heavy way, because on one level, we're instinctually brought to a new direction, and yet at the same time, we're having to let go of the process of what we have been using as an evolutionary container before. So the Sun's connection there in Cancer is asking you very, very outright to say, how much security do you have within yourself? Not an existential one, not materialistic, but your actual inner state of serenity and capacity to know that whatever you are challenged with, you can embrace with total openness, and yet at the same time still remain vulnerable in your insecurities, i.e. your disempowered state. The process that is really manifesting itself through that connection is how you are responding to new. And so I share with you in that sense the idea around openness and invitation and trust, but true trust. So if you really want to play Divine Feminine, you really want to play the relationship of what she actually represents in terms of an archetypal perspective, we're looking at our relationship to going with something that is leading us in a direction that we don't know what it is, yet we know instinctually and deep down inside of ourselves, it will reveal itself at some point. And then how do we disengage the mind to come to the realization that what we're actually doing is a far more greater than what the mind can even conceive through its limited capacity of biological engineering. You understand? So we have that angle that's taking place for us right now, that we've got that layer. Then we have the actual process of purification around the structural framework that we as human beings and individuals have used to justify our reality, okay? So each of us have a cosmology, okay? Saturn in Sagittarius. Sagittarius is the cosmology. Its polarity of Sagittarius is Gemini. So under this big umbrella, we have this cosmology, that is the umbrella. And then under the umbrella is the natural laws in which we have answers to the questions that we seek, okay? So, or should I say, the questions that we have, we seek the answers, right? So Gemini is the natural questioning around what our reality is about, the consistence that we exist within, and our cosmology will directly influence our capacity to understand that. So if we're in a situation where we're trying to understand things far greater than what our cosmology can encompass, then our ability to know will be limited, therefore creating mass amounts of disassociation. Because any of you, including myself, whenever you try to understand something for the first time or are engaged in something, a frequency, an energy, a sound vibration, whatever that might be, and you find yourself disassociating, it's two things. Either it's your capacity to not know how to digest the information yet and the grasping of it, or that the cosmology in itself is far greater than what you are capable of understanding. And so therefore, because of that process, the realization that there needs to be an expansion. That's why Sagittarius in itself correlates to the higher mind. So we have Saturn in Sagittarius, then it is squaring the nodal axis in Jupiter, and it is also then squaring Chiron in Pisces. And we have this natural relationship between mutable signs, i.e. Pisces, Sag, Virgo. This has been going on for quite some time. And I see this as the sieve, okay, the alchemical processing that we are using to get rid of all the heavy metals that exists within our framework, i.e. the old, crystallized, outdated perceptions, realities, inspirations, ideals, delusions, etc., that have literally been infused within our DNA that supported us in the previous cycle of evolution in which we were evolving ourselves through, which in most cases, for many of us, well, in fact, all of us, this was the south node of Capricorn, the Pluto in Capricorn, was the structural nature of our reality as through patriarchy and emotional suppression, the rejection of the feminine, or the unknowingness, the inability to want to know what the divine feminine is about in that sense. And then that being a way of developing all of the sicknesses that we have on this planet right now, i.e. the distortion. So we all seek change, we all seek the process of realization of newness and desire to want, but yet we're not engaged in how that purification process cannot exist existentially, but must exist internally. Because as above, so below, the natural laws that exist within ourselves are manifestations of our existential reality, right? And this is what's so beautiful, because you can actually live somewhere in the world and notice how the distractions and distortions are being played out by other idiots around in the world that feel that their capacity to govern other human beings is balanced, whereas it's complete nonsense. And yet we still feed the energy cycle, because on some deep level, we're not actually taking it upon ourselves to realize that we are the people that are the change. We are the ones that actually have the power. And the natural destruction or the ending of the cycle comes from our realization that anything that we are holding existential attachment to, that we are feeding in some way, shape, or form, is providing the outside world with enough energy to sustain itself. So it actually becomes a boycott. It becomes a boycott of everything that is unnatural, that you know within inside of yourself has absolutely no meaning. And yet simultaneously, our relationship to making that step in that new direction is so intense that it's far better to just stay safe and secure. And we all suffer from this, including myself. At some points, I've done that. And it's about getting real with ourselves. Okay, Capricorn is all about getting real. So we see a lot of trauma on the planet. We see a lot of collective pain. We see things, and we tend to spend our time looking at how, from a detached perspective, what that's like. Yet we're not actually spending time deeply connecting to our own pain in that process and transmuting it within ourselves to allow for natural realizations and encompassing truths that are deeply rooted in spiritual purification to be present with us. Okay, now again, this might feel completely and utterly as if there is a need for us to judge ourselves and to make us feel small and impure and etc. That is not what I'm saying. I'm simply saying that in order for the magnitude of what we seek in our world to shift, we need to get real with ourselves in a way that is beyond what we can conceive at this point in time as what we think we need to do. Okay, and it's about going deeper. It's about getting in touch with trauma. It's getting in touch with the natural magnitude of pain that arises and that is coming up to the surface at this point in time and saying, no, we don't want to see it, versus actually the fact that we're seeing that in itself, the plane that we're seeing on the planet in itself, is a perfect picture for us to, as a individual, get in touch with that process. I not run away from it, but engage in it and understand what it is, understand the severity of the situation, understand the natural process of that things at this point in time for us are not going to get better because we choose to believe in archangels that are going to now come down to earth from extraterrestrial higher planes of existence and remove grids and all that type of shit. It's like, come on, let's stop with the illusions, and let's stop with running away from our own pain and our realizations that we incarnated at this point in time to work through that stuff. We're here on earth for a reason. And if we're going to numb ourselves through our experiences and lose the actual purpose of the experience, well, then we're doomed. And when I say doomed, I don't mean it in some catastrophic Scorpio, like, oh my God, the world's going to end type of way. I don't mean it like that. I mean in the sense that we're doomed to set ourselves up for the recycling of futility. That at some point we will come to the same place and go, oh my God, nothing's changed in that period of time. And because that's the case, nothing will manifest itself in positive, so I should give up, or any of that sort. And quite frankly, Saturn's transit through Capricorn, once it's finished in Sag, and Pluto, that's going to be manifesting at the end degrees of Capricorn, is not going to be this wonderful joyride of total openness and acceptance. Capricorn has nothing to do with openness and freedom. It doesn't. It's the laws and regulations and boundaries and constrictions that cement us in the actual reality that we have to face. And then when we face that reality and we see it and we confront it and we spend time in that darkness, we will come out the other side realizing the shift. And the shift comes from not wanting to do the same thing over and over. That is authentic shifting, right? So that's why I said in the beginning of the video, or maybe it was the take one that I did it in, but I said that we should challenge ourselves today or this week or this month. Give yourself a challenge every single month. Give yourself at least one challenge that you're going to embark on that is going to shift your life in a way that it truly empowers you from the inside out, and that gives you authentic awakening experiences, ones that are rooted in the realization that empathy and compassion and heart-centeredness doesn't come because somebody gave you a book, or I gave you a video, or I spoke to myself in a loving way. It's the complete opposite. In fact, it's the going through the samskara, realizing that distortion that we've imbued within ourselves and purifying it from the inside out. And then coming through that process in a Plutonian way where you've actually like opened yourself up to that strength. And there are many, many wonderful like souls out there at this point in time that are supporting us. And I feel like this is not something that we have a lack of abundance with. There are lots and lots of support around for us to be able to engage in this. It just depends on whether or not we're choosing that self-love as an important process versus the pizza or luxury item that we are going to engage in or think about over the more deeper relationship that we're trying to develop. And this is an ongoing process, guys. So I'm sorry that the energy is coming through in a very intense way. It's not to make us feel stupid. In fact, it's to make us feel that we deserve better. And for me personally, within this last week, I've definitely felt a massive need to honor more of my creative potential in a way that actually deserves the recognition that I feel it deserves. And yet I don't give myself enough time to be able to manifest the vision in a way that's strong enough to reflect that. So I get pissed off with myself. I'm like, Jesus, I obviously have got this really, really deep feeling of wanting to share something. And yet at the same time, I don't give it enough time and space to be able to manifest it in a way that I feel inside. And then I create an existential crisis within myself where I criticize myself and judge myself for not doing it the right way. And yet from that process, I realized that I'm actually giving myself a lot more love because I honor my process. I honor my sacredness. And we don't do that. We don't honor our sacredness. It's time to get pissed off. It's time to get angry. It's time to start shouting at the inaccuracies and the wrongness that is existing in the world and stop pretending that some golden age is going to manifest itself instantly. Because when we're doing that, we're just like sitting back saying, hey man, everything's going to change itself. The funny thing about the process, paradoxically speaking, is that that's exactly what we do need to do as well. And this is where I think the twist comes in my conversation today. The new state of awareness that is manifesting itself with Saturn, Pisces, Chiron in Pisces, and Virgo, Jupiter and North Node in Virgo, and that whole square and kite that's taking place is the purification of the belief systems that are held from the past. So we're breaking away from this old direction, and we're simultaneously at the same time purifying old identities and re-establishing new ones. Okay, but that process of re-establishing new ones requires us to be in a serenity mode or a state of watching how it unfolds for us and not trying to control it with the mind. So there is a process of letting go, and there's a process of being open and receptive to the new direction without influencing it. Okay. And then what we have beautifully illustrate itself with this full moon is the fact that not only is Mars and Scorpio connecting to Chiron in Pisces, so you've got that connection there, Pisces and Scorpio water, and then you have the moon in, pardon me, not the moon, but the sun in Cancer. So that's the water trinity. Okay, so we evolved through the emotional body with the water trinity. Scorpio is natural desire and intention. Pisces is the natural relationship that we have to our inspiration and spirituality. And Cancer is the ego structure we use to evolve ourselves through our intentions and desires. So Pluto will naturally reveal to us, or Scorpio will naturally reveal to us, what is the intention? Is it aligned with a deeper purification process, Neptune? And that's been supported by the Cancer archetype. So the whole entire purification process is now highlighted beautifully. The shift within our journey is taking place. And then we have Mars sextile Pluto and Moon, and we have Neptune sextile Pluto and Chiron, obviously, and Neptune sextile, and also connect. So we've got this beautiful Capricorn at the top, Pisces and Cancer and Scorpio, pardon me. So the Capricorn interconnects with the water trinity by saying to us that the old structure that we used as human beings to evolve ourselves through is now being dissolved. That was what the new moon was about. We're in the process of the awakening regarding this dissolving process and the realization of what is now going to be taking place for us. And the most beautiful way to illustrate this process is the metamorphosis of the caterpillar into the butterfly. The caterpillar does not know within inside of itself that is merging into a butterfly. It just knows that its evolution currently at this point in time is to, at some point, go into a chrysalis, dissolve the natural state in which it is within. So the dissolving process is Pisces to Capricorn. The core structure is, and metamorphosis is the Scorpio part. So Scorpio, Pisces, and Capricorn processing the natural dissolving and structure to the unity. And then the blueprint of that organic structure then starts to emerge as the dissolving process has taken place and it starts to merge into a butterfly. In other words, we are at the non-dual state. We are now in the purified state of just the ocean. And now every single one of us at this point in time has this capacity to awaken through the heart, bringing in the collective consciousness, or bringing into the collective consciousness your divine blueprint that is going to reach you out into the butterfly. But you are in the process of activating that. And that's why the cellular molecular structure within your DNA will be shifting at this point in time if you awaken to the transmuting process. It will shift you completely. So it's huge, it's massive, it's amazing. And once that organic blueprint starts to be activated and you start trusting it in a more deeper way and you understand the body's process and the natural way in which a baby takes 9 months to form, we're forming ourselves. And this is right where it is. So this is getting in touch with your blueprint. This is getting in touch with yourself. This is allowing the instinctual body to be able to guide you in the direction. So what are you excited about? That's why 2 days ago, I released a video saying finding purpose. You do that by understanding your emotional reality. What is exciting you? What is drawing you in directions? Don't let the mind get involved. Just try different things out. And as soon as you start to respond to those things, you'll start to notice that you're awakening that blueprint. And over a period of time, it will start to reveal itself to you. And that's how the shift existentially is going to manifest. But if we're not looking here to know that process, then it's all gone. It's lost. It's just going to be manipulated and controlled by existential forces. Done. All right, guys. Thanks very much for sharing this time with me. I really hope that this awakens something in you. The article to this video should be posted within a day or so. Write to me in the comments below what your thoughts are and your process. Email me anything you want to share with me. Just to let everybody know, I'm starting a beginner's course astrology on the 24th of July if you're interested in doing that. This is a whole entire language of astrology that I teach you. It's a 6-week course. I'll give you everything you need to know about archetypes and to be able to read your karmic story and your birth chart, Pluto and the nodal axis. I have things like Learn Your Chart, for instance, which is a great way to get in touch with your astrology. You can check that out as well on the website. And finally, if you just want to talk to me in a guidance session or anything of the sort, just contact me via email, okay? Or check out the stuff on the site. Other than that, guys, have a wonderful full moon experience, and I wish you all the best on your journey so far, okay? Take care. Bye-bye.